Of all the language families in Africa, this might be the one you've heard the least about. These are the Nilo-Saharan languages, and they're extremely interesting, but they might not actually be a language family at all. These languages are collectively spoken by around 70 million people in the area around the Nile River and, believe it or not, the Sahara Desert. Some linguists have suggested that all of these languages are related, that is to say they all ultimately descend from one language that was spoken thousands and thousands of years ago, but a lot of other people have said, there's just really not enough evidence to say that right now. That said, even if they're not related, these languages share some really interesting features. One of the most interesting ones, in my opinion, is that a lot of these languages mark the singulative instead of the plural. Let me explain what I mean by that. Let's say, for example, that you were looking at one bird versus like a flock. Now in English, and most other languages actually, you would say this is one bird, but this is a flock of birds. So we have to add something to the word bird to show that there's more than one of them, right? That's the plural marker. In a lot of languages that are grouped under the Nilo-Saharan umbrella, though, that's not always the case. In Dolo, for example, which by the way happens to be spoken by Lupita Nyong'o, the word for birds, plural, happens to be the default, and then you add a suffix to that word to clarify that there's just one bird. This is what's called the singulative number, and Dolo isn't the only language that does this. You can also see this in the Maasai language, spoken primarily in Kenya and Tanzania, as well as in the Shilluk language, spoken in South Sudan, and many others as well. Even if the Nilo-Saharan languages aren't related, they're still extremely interesting, but it's also an extremely difficult time right now for a lot of the people who speak them. If you can, please consider checking out this link, and anything generated by this video is going to be going here as well. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching, and Yin Shalei Kapedit.